Kenya or Djibouti that takes up the African regional non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council. The Assembly decides today. Next, we'll tell you all you have to know what this means for politics on the continent. Good evening, I'm Aldrin Simpier, and this is African Perspective, although a shorter edition. United Nations members are scheduled to vote for a new non-permanent members for the Security Council today. Kenya is in a duel with fellow IGAD partner Djibouti. Both countries are hoping to replace South Africa for the region's seat on the powerful global body. Djibouti is contesting despite the majority of African Union members endorsing Kenya, a process that Djibouti has termed illegal. Should Djibouti win, then that will mean that all three seats in Africa will be held by French-speaking African countries. China and Russia have thrown their weight behind Djibouti, while Britain, France and the USA have backed Kenya. Kenya has termed Djibouti's decision to go on with the campaign as dishonorable. On Tuesday night, Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta made his case for his country's candidacy, indicating that Kenya will champion Africa's collective voice at the United Nations Security Council.
A vote for Kenya is a vote for peace. A vote for Kenya is a vote for global solidarity. A vote for Kenya is a vote for multilateralism. A vote for Kenya is that even the smallest voice shall be heard as the largest and most powerful voice.
And will Kenya be the largest and the most powerful voice? Let's bring into this conversation as we have a discussion around the analysis of what's happening in Kenya and Kenya's candidacy to run for this non-permanent seat. We'll be speaking to Boaz Mbaya, who is an international relations analyst. Good evening and welcome to African Perspective. Listening into what the president had to say there earlier on, do you believe that Kenya does carry that voice, a powerful voice?
Well, thank you for having me. I fully agree with President Kenyatta on what he said, and I would like to add that this will not be the first time Kenya will be sitting on the UN Security Council seat if it gets through. We have been there twice before, the last time being 1998, 1999. Mm-hmm. So we have experience in how to deal with the issues that are presented to the UN Security Council. Apart from that, we also have experience in a lot of conflict resolution efforts on the continent, where we've dealt with several issues, several processes, and I think Kenya is very, very well placed to represent Africa more effectively.
The argument from Djibouti, for instance, is that that the AU has gone against its own rules in terms of the frequency as well as rotation. And you do mention that the last time Kenya had a seat was back in 1999, but the last time Djibouti had a seat was in 1993.
Well, the issue of rotation is not necessarily breaking the rules of the AU. The AU has got a mechanism of looking at who is likely to represent the continent more effectively rather than looking at the countries specifically. So in its understanding, I want to believe that the AU has come to the conclusion Kenya presents a better choice in terms of how best to handle issues that will affect the continent and which will be brought to the discussion level at the United Nations Security Council. So there is no law that has been broken. There are no rules that have been broken. It is a procedure in the AU to adopt a candidate, and I think they have done so procedurally.
Why would you argue that Djibouti is not the right candidate for that particular seat, considering the arguments that they've made as well, that they are placed quite, speaking about the geographic position with regards to the Red Sea, the Arabia Sea, Indian Ocean, the Gulf of Aden, and its trade-friendly location? That's the argument that they are putting forward.
You see, it is not a matter of representing the Red Sea area alone. It is a matter of representing the whole of the African continent. South Africa has been doing that. Kenya is likely to do that. And Djibouti will be expected, if it wins, to do the same. So it is not a matter of the Red Sea. The Red Sea happens to be the location where Djibouti is located, and that's a natural consequence. So they are bound to argue that in terms of its own location placing. But let us look at the issues that will come before the UN Security Council. If you are dealing with conflicts, you are dealing with the peace processes, you are dealing with international cooperation. Nairobi has the only headquarters, UN headquarters, in the developing world. So we are better placed in terms of connectivity to deal with those issues rather than Djibouti.
Just quickly, the argument from some people are that this is actually a battle between China as well as the West, considering the support that China has given to Djibouti.
Well, I beg to differ. The international politics is always flowered and colored by the big powers. So they are bound to have their effects. They are bound to have their interests. And I can imagine that Djibouti is trying to play on that so that they win support from other regions of the world. But I think the other regions of the world know, as well as everybody else, that Kenya has had participation, very effective participation in peacekeeping operations, United Nations peacekeeping operations across the world, very effectively, and we produce some of the best results that you can put on the table. But Djibouti cannot show anything for that. So I don't think there is really any comparison as far as I'm concerned. But Djibouti is entitled to argue its case. Let them argue its case. If they win, so be it. But we think Kenya will make a better representative.
Thank you so much for that. That is Boaz Mbaya, who is an international relations analyst.